freshly washed sky. She always took the same pension, and liked to take several novels. She favoured the lengthy intrigues of Anthony Trollope, and was partial to a little Joanna for light relief, and luxuriate in the time to devour them, returning to Downey House rested, refreshed, and ready for the new academic year. This year, however, had been different. After her shock at meeting the son she gave up for adoption nearly 40 years ago, Veronica had handled it badly, and they had lost contact. And although there were budgets to be approved, a new intake to set up and staffing to be organised, she couldn't concentrate. All she seemed to do was worry about Daniel and wonder what he was doing back in Cornwall. She was staring out the window of her beautiful office before term was due to start when Dr. Robert Fitzroy, head of Downey Boys over the hill, arrived for their annual chat. The two schools did many things together, and it was useful to have some knowledge of the forthcoming agenda.
"You seem a little distracted, Veronica,"
Robert said, comfortably ensconced on the Chesterfield sofa, enjoying the fine view over the school grounds and to the cliffs and the sea beyond. Today, a perfect summer holiday blue. They weren't really getting anywhere with debating the new computer lab. Veronica sighed and briefly considered confiding in her opposite number. He was a kind man, if a little set in his ways. She dismissed this thought immediately. She had spent years building up this school. The last thing she needed was anyone thinking she was a weak woman prone to tears and over-emotional sentimentality. Robert droned on about new staff.
"Oh, and yes," he said, "we have a new history teacher at last. Good ones are so hard to find these days."
Veronica was barely listening. She was watching the waves outside and wondering if Daniel had ever taken his children to the seaside for a holiday. So when Robert said his name, it chimed with her thoughts, and at first she didn't at all understand what she'd just heard. "Excuse me?"
"Daniel Stapleton, our new history teacher."
"Mom?" Zelda was throwing ugly things in her bag. Ugly tops, ugly skirts, ugly hats. What the hell? School uniform was the stupidest idea in a country full of stupid ideas. "Did you know I have to share, like, a bathroom? Did they tell you that?" Zelda's mother shook her head. As if she didn't have enough to deal with, what with Dubose being so excited about the move and all. Why they all had to go and up sticks and live in England, where she'd heard it rained all the time and everyone lived in itty-bitty houses with bathrooms the size of cupboards, well, it didn't bear thinking about. She doubted it would be much like Texas.
"Don't worry, darling,"
Dubose had said in that calm drawl of his. He might get a lot of respect as a major seconded to the British Army, but it didn't cut much ice with her, nuh-uh.
"And we'll get Zelda out of that crowd she's been running with at high school. Turn her into quite the English lady."
A boarding school education was free for the daughters of senior military staff on overseas postings, and Downey House, they'd been assured, was among the very best. As Mary Jo looked at her daughter's perfect manicure, they'd been for a mommy-daughter pamper day, so strange against the stark white of her new uniform blouses, she wondered, yet again, how they would all fit in. Simone glanced at Fliss's Facebook update. Felicity is having a blasting time in Spain, and tried her best to be happy for her. The Kardashians weren't having a holiday this year. It just wasn't practical. Which was fine by Simone. She hated struggling into her tankini and pulling a big sarong around herself, then sitting under an umbrella hiding in case anyone saw her. So, okay, Fliss might be having great fun without her. And Alice was posting about being utterly miserably bored learning to dive with her au pair in her Hurghada, and she was jealous and she did miss them, but she was doing her best to be happy for them. Thank goodness she'd been invited to Fliss's house for the end of the holidays, so they could all travel back together. Simone had tried not to let slip to her friends just how much she was looking forward to it, and even worse, to admit how much she was looking forward to going back to school. It had been a long 7 weeks, with not much to do but read and try to avoid Joel, her brother.